Okay.
All right, doctor.
Okay. Let me just start now. We don't have
Right.
we don't have much time. Okay, Mr. Jada, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Conte. Thanks again, everybody, for being here again this Sunday. Um, Dr. Conte, today we want to talk about, we still want to talk about the Central Bank of the Gambia, as well as the Ministry of Trade. Um, um, our ongoing discussion on the economy of the Gambia. Um, uh, the kind of what looks like a very dire economic situation in the country. Uh, Runaway inflation, mounting escalation of prices, commodity prices, food prices. Uh, so we continue to look at that. Also, we will look at the Trade Ministry's response to the bread crisis in the country, the escalation of bread prices in the country. Um, But before we start, Dr. Conte, I want us to address our last session. We had a number of questions that came up from our viewers. One particular one I want to address here briefly is the question of the white paper, the government's response with regards to uh, the former. Uh, Actually, he's still the director general of the um, what used to be called NIA, now is called SIS. I think they call it State Intelligence Service now, SIS. But that is Usman Sow, as well as the former IGP. I'm not exactly sure who that former IGP is, whether it was Esabadi or someone IGP. Uh, and the Minister of Interior, I believe that is the former Minister of Interior. I think that was Yankuba Sonko, I believe. So those three are exempted from culpability in the white paper. And some of our viewers questioned that we did not deal with that issue. And this is what I have to say about that, Dr. Conte. I believe that, particularly the case of the Director General of NIA, Usman Sow, I think the argument is that Usman Show's actions, that means his alleged tampering with destruction of evidence at the NIA, happened outside the mandate of the TRRC. And that was the argument. And I totally agree with that. I think the law is sufficient that that action by Mr. Shaw did not happen within the time stipulated for the TRRC to investigate. However, I do believe that Usman Shaw could be held accountable through a different process. He could be charged with a crime of tampering with evidence. It had been announced prior to his tampering by the TRRC that they intend to preserve the NIA evidence at the NIA. So Shaw's actions may be culpable in a different form of prosecution rather than through the TRRC system. So that much I can say on that. I don't know much about the former IGP and what he is alleged to have committed. I will have to remind myself or refresh my my memory on that. I'll have to look at the documentations and the charges and the allegations against him, as well as the Interior Minister. But that's all I have to say about that. Dr. Conte, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that, about the issue of the Director General of NIA slash SIS, as well as the Interior Minister and the former IGP. And I think Dr. Conte stepped away. But that's all I have to say about that. If this is not adequate, I will accept further questions on this, and I will go back and look at the papers again and be able to provide a more detailed response. Dr. Conte, do you have anything to say about the issue of the DG, Director General of SIS, NIA/NIA, or the former IGP, as well as the Interior Minister Yankuba Sonko, the fact that they have been pretty much left out of the white paper. They have been, the government will not take any action against them.
I don't have much to say because
Okay.
they've made a decision, and so I cannot just question that.
Got you. And, this has to be clear also. The government, I'm not sure. I've had some lawyers argue that the government does not have a prerogative to decide whether to accept or reject the recommendations. Some lawyers argued that the government is mandated to accept the TRRC report and implement it as it is. There's no question of whether it can accept or reject. So in the eyes of those lawyers, whatever is in the TRRC report, the government will have no choice but to implement it. But we've seen in reality that is not the case in this. The government has rejected some, even though those are very small elements of the complete report. But generally speaking, the executive branch has a prosecutorial discretion. The government can decide to prosecute a case or not to prosecute a case. So there is that prerogative that the government can always use. So I believe even this case could fall into that category as well. But so much on that, Dr. Conte. We want to go and look at the Central Bank of the Gambia continued response to the currency crisis and the inflation in the country. And I think we will have to deal with this together with the Trade Ministry's response to price increases in the country, particularly bread prices, because they are so intertwined. We may have to deal with them, both of them at the same time. Dr. Conte, during the week we had some clarifications made by the Central Bank of the Gambia, in which they also made further revelations about their continued action to deal with the foreign currency crisis in the country, as well as mounting consumer prices in the country. So, and this is widely reported. I think all the major newspapers reported on this. Fourier, the Standard, and the Point, I believe, Point newspaper, I believe. So what is quite interesting is that the central bank is saying that they will not allow the dollarization, or what they call the dollarization of the Gambian economy, meaning the Gambian economy is in such a state that most people, consumers as well as business people, are losing faith in the dollar, in the local currency. Many people, including business people, are prefer to hold their assets in foreign currency rather than the Dalasi, the local currency. And they talked about even landlords beginning to demand payments in dollars and other foreign currencies rather than the Gambian Dalasi, because the Dalasi's value is so volatile that there is complete loss of faith in it. And so basically the dollarization of the Gambian economy basically refers to this dire situation, a situation where the dollar or other foreign currencies become acceptable form of tender alongside the local currency. This Central Bank of the Gambia also admitted that there is what is called a market failure, in that the market is unable to deal with this crisis, the crisis of inflation, the crisis of foreign currency in the country. And so government intervention is absolutely necessary to stem this trend. But if you look at the Dr. Conte, if you look at the statement from the Central Bank of the Gambia, it looks like this whole response intervention is targeting the what I would call the black market dealers, the dealers, foreign currency dealers who operate in the black market. And I think this needs to be clarified, that Dr. Conte, these are legal business practitioners. I believe I could be corrected on this if I am wrong. Otherwise, law enforcement could be used to remove them off the streets. But I think many of these black market operators are legally registered in the country, and they are competitors to the banks in many ways when it comes to foreign currency exchanges. I think what really needs to happen is that nobody's disputing that government can intervene in the economy. They can. The government has that option to intervene in the economy, but we want to do it in a way that also is lawful, and that in the long run is going to help the economy to recover. I think in the long run, the currency crisis in the country is really going to be, can only be stemmed, can only be contained, can only be managed if the Gambia is able to grow its economy and expand its economy, expand local production of many of these commodities. It is acknowledged that most of what the Gambia uses, maybe one can even say all of what we use, in terms of consumption or commodities, most of them are coming from outside, are being imported into the country. The Gambia is heavily dependent on imports. And so unless we are able to reverse that trend, or, at least reduce it quite significantly, we are going to be very, very limited in the way we can manage this kind of situation in the country. The central bank, among many responses they have taken is that they have reduced they are making attempt to reduce liquidity. So they are basically trying to curb the amount of money in circulation in the economy by raising the monetary policy rate, which I believe, according to reports, they raised that by 1%. But they did not do anything about the reserve requirements of banks. Reserve requirement is the amount of money that banks are required to hold, just in case. Basically, it's to guarantee kind of a security to ensure that the banks maintain a certain amount of liquidity. So they said that they did not do anything to change that. That remains the same. But the interest rate, which is the MPR, the monetary policy rate, that the banks set in an attempt to influence the economy, to manage the economy, that interest rate is raised by 1%. So so basically, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to the cost of capital, the cost of money is going to be a little bit higher. So this is an attempt to also discourage the influx of money, the money in circulation. So it's a way of removing money, kind of managing liquidity, reducing liquidity. So these are some of the steps that the central bank took. Interestingly, they also said the SLF, which is the standing lending finance facilities, the standing lending facilities, which are basically the amount of money that commercial banks can access. It's in a short-term basis. It's also unchanged. Those are left the same as well. So this is a liquidity crisis, Dr. Conte, largely. Last week we said IMF put this very nicely. It's a crisis of foreign currency crisis is attributed to the spread. That means we talked about a formula to calculate the spread. You have to look at the ask price and the bid price by the banks, and then you see the gap between these two. And then the bigger this gap, the bigger the liquidity problem is. So so we can understand where the central bank is coming from. But again, Dr. Conte, I don't know if you want to comment on this first before we talk about the statement from the Ministry of Trade about the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, let's talk about this bid price because I have the site open.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to know the spread first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think some people may be interested in knowing that.
Absolutely, yes.
So I have the, so maybe that can help you. This is what I'm looking for. Let me share. Are you able to see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
So are you looking for the are you looking for the minimum, average, or maximum?
The minimum is fine.
Okay, the minimum for the bid price is, as of today, $3.74.
Okay.
And then the ask price is 54.554.
Okay. So we can compute the spread by subtracting the bid from the ask and then divide it by the ask.
Okay, so which means that I don't think there's much of a difference because I tried to do it the other time. So 53.74 minus 54.54. That's just 0.8 and divided by 53.7774. So the spread is actually 1.49%.
Gotcha. So here we are. So this is exactly what the IMF is talking about. That difference, that spread, is what is attributed to be causing the liquidity crisis in the country. So basically, there is a high demand for foreign currency, particularly the dollar in the country. There are too many people chasing the dollar, too many people chasing few dollars in the country. So that is how we can explain what is going on in terms of, and I know the central bank is working very hard to contain this situation. But in my view, the central bank is very much limited, Dr. Conte, in what they can do. Some of these actions they are taking uh, may actually worsen the situation.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so if we have this spread at if we have the spread
Mhm.
of 1.49%, do we have to compare that with the depreciation of the currency, uh, let's say January 1 to today, the dollar is depreciated by 2%. So it looks like the depreciation is more than the spread.
There you go. Um, I'm not particularly sure that is quite going to make our point, but of course, as the dollar depreciates against the major currencies,
Hmm.
that is going to affect the bank rate, what the banks are asking for, the exchange rate of these currencies when you go to the banks. Absolutely. And in a way, it could factor into that as well.
Okay.
But the real key thing is that the the um, the demand for the foreign currency, the demand for dollar and the euro and the pound sterling are extremely high in the country because partly because there's a continued loss of faith in the Gambian dollar because of the inflation and because, like you rightly said, the dollar is depreciating very rapidly against all these currencies. So for most people, including business people, they feel safer holding their assets in foreign currency than in the Gambian dollar because of its volatility.
Okay, but let me comment if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Even when the Minister of Finance, I'm not talking about Keta,
Mhm.
previous ministers,
Mhm.
every time they present the budget or they presented the budget, they will denominate most of their figures in dollars.
Right.
And last week, when the country got budget support from the World Bank,
Mhm.
they reported the amount in dollars.
Right.
So now, if they don't want us to have dollarization, they should now begin to convert all their figures into dollars.
Right.
I think that's what we need to do. And also, I was told that in Farafenye, uh, transactions are in safer. So as long as we are within the territory of the Gambia, no safer transactions will take effect. If we want to try to promote the confidence in the dollar, that's what we have to do. So if they're going to tell merchant, no, you haven't, I'm not going to touch that yet. But I'm very concerned for the simple fact that we are talking about inflation, but we haven't provided any mechanisms to help us sustain. In my view, we have more money out there chasing fewer goods. And as a result, what's happening is the cost will be higher. So if we import more than we export, what do you think is going to happen to the price of the goods? I also want to talk about because we are talking about price of goods. I think I did engage you on the purchase of tiles in the country. So sometimes we tend to blame the government for inactivity, but we also have to blame our merchants. I want to add this. I know it may not be part of the topic, but if you go to Lowe's or you go to Sam's and you bought 24 cans of soda, you know what you're gonna pay on 24 cans is in the if you buy 24 cans at a certain price and they are all in bulk one, But then you decide to go to even the same store, you want to buy one can. The price of that can, one can, is going to be more expensive than the individual price of the 24 cans that you bought in bulk. My argument here is that we blame the government for almost everything, but we have merchants who want to take advantage of consumers in the Gambia. If you're going to import, and I still will argue this point, if you're going to import tiles to the Gambia and you purchase them in cases, why then, when a customer comes in, would you want to know the square footage of their house? If I stay home and I do my computation and I said I want 60 60 cases of tiles, why are you as a merchant interested in the measurement of my rooms? So here we are, Gambians Gambians are put at a disadvantage. Those who are in the country and they don't have any substitutes for foreign currency, they are in a dire strait to do that. But if you travel to the Gambia and you want to buy uh, cases of towels, you have the dollar, the pound sterling, or even the euro. With a shortage of foreign currency in the country, you can now begin to be a market money transfer agent by taking your dollar or your pound sterling or euro, changing it at a higher rate, and then go to the store. So our monetary policy, is not clearly defined, in my view, by this governor, because I thought few months ago they decided to set a fixed price for the Dallasy, and we wrote several opinions on that decision, and then he scrapped it. So we literally have to be very serious in how we gonna try to tame our economy. But as long as we continue to import more than we export, inflation will still be there. The government policy will still depreciate. I tend to believe, that before I can criticize the government, I should be able to fix my own dilemma. If you believe that the Gambian Dalasi currency is not inferior to the US dollar because it's paper money, why then would you, as a citizen, I know it's your right to do whatever you want to do, why then would you open a dollar, euro, or pound sterling account? That is my argument. But as long as the banks allow you to do that, they also will be in violation to tell you that we are not going to pay you in foreign currency. We're going to pay you in Gambian dollars. I think I need to stop right here. But I think what is happening in our country at this moment, we all should come together to try to find solutions, because for us who are here, even though when we go to the store, we also are facing inflation here. But I think the inflation in the Gambia is more drastic because our people have little, and the little that they have to spend more to get the goods that they want. Look at even the some of the rice sellers. They buy rice in what, in tons, and they are all in denominated in bags. So when they get to the Gambia, they open the thing and they open the bags and take few out, try to make another bag. So you tell me, is that fair? Is that ethical? What is your corporate social responsibility, even if you are an entrepreneur? So very soon they may even put water in some of the drinks that they buy and then they try to sell it. Very soon they may try to do that. So this is a collective effort in my on as far as I'm concerned. And if we don't work together, I'm of the belief that time will come when the government may not even have money to even pay for civil servants. It's coming.
I agree. Thank you, Dr. Conte. Couple of points there. The foreign currency accounts, the dollar accounts in the banks. Um, I totally agree, and I think this started during Jammeh's time. Jammeh himself, and I would say government himself, has opened accounts, either in the name of Jammeh or his associates, uh, or in the name of the government. The Gambia has dollar accounts. Jammeh's regime had dollar accounts in several banks, and so I believe it has become legitimate in the country to open foreign currency accounts in the country, and even outside of Jammeh and the government, there are many individuals, including senior government officials, who operate uh, foreign currency accounts in the country. Just recently, one senior government official, Dr. Conte, a senior government official recently admitted to having a euro account in the Gambia. So I believe it is perfectly legal. Otherwise, the banks would not allow these accounts to be opened. So it is quite legal, I want to believe, and it is legitimate to have a foreign currency account in the country. Um, Many people do, many business people do, many senior government officials do. The ordinary Gambian consumers do not have this kind of luxury to do. They deal in the dollar sea all the time because that's all they have access to. But those who have the money and those who have the capacity and the capability are increasingly opening foreign currency accounts because they don't have much faith in the Gambian dollar sea. So I believe it is quite legal, and to turn around and tell the banks not to have these people access to their currencies may be illegal. Notwithstanding the understanding that government has a right to intervene in the economy when things are extremely bad. But I mean, these bank accounts are opened with the understanding that these people have unfettered access to their monies, and they should be able to withdraw it in the manner that is stipulated by law.
Okay.
So that is one thing that we have to contend with. But I want to briefly also touch on the analogy you gave about the tiles, importation of tiles, and how businesses are able to buy these tiles in bulk, wholesale, and then only to retail, compel consumers to buy from them in retail, in piece by piece. Um, I think the big problem with this is that the Gambian economy is still quite a tight place to operate. Many of these business sectors are uh, quite monopolistic. They have, fewer businesses operating in these sectors. I think if there is intense competition, um, many of these businesses will look at creative ways to sell to consumers in a way that will attract them, in a way, because, businesses look at consumer demands and respond according to what consumers want, right? So it is not very helpful to compel consumers to buy only in a certain way. A smart business will always feel the environment, feel how consumers, you know, think and what they want to do, what works for them, and respond accordingly to attract them, to capture the revenue from those people. So the kind of resistance in the market, in terms of resistance to consumer need, um, is largely because there is not enough competition in the market. If competition is intense and um, there are a lot of businesses operating in these sectors competing against one another, I think we will see a lot of creativity. Many will start to think differently and try to respond to consumer needs in a different way that works much better for them. Um, Having said that, Dr. Conte, I want us to briefly look at what the Trade Ministry response to bread prices in the country. Um, I think, Dr. Conte, it is a given that bread prices are escalating in the country. They have been for over time, but recently it has reached to a point where the ministry feels that they have to react now. And the response is that uh, bread prices have reached $12 a loaf. And this is much higher than what the government recommended. I think the trade ministry recommended $10 based on what they believe are to be the cost of producing uh, a loaf of bread. And they feel like $10 should give the uh, uh, sellers of bread enough profit. But again, that is tricky. What is enough profit for a business person is quite subjective and tricky. I don't know, but the trade ministry is threatening uh, legal action, prosecutions, and all that stuff. Uh, but I think what really the trade ministry needs to do, there's not there are not many good options here, frankly speaking. It is quite tricky dealing with these kind of situations. There's not so much that the ministry can do. I don't think they can go after these people and try to prosecute them. No, that will be quite futile. I don't think it will be a good option at all. So what I think the trade ministry can do, outside of subsidizing the price of flour for these bread manufacturers, would be to help the population of the Gambia to prepare what they can do actually is that prepare the Gambian people that they to look for substitutes to bread. Um, I know Gambia have become a big bread consumer now. It hasn't been always like that. Uh, and I think much of the bread is consumed for breakfast and stuff like that. But for breakfast, people can look for alternatives. Markets work, only when there are alternatives, and consumers are able to switch their loyalty to products, and look for alternatives when the price is not attractive to them. Switching your breakfast from bread to probably churai getfe or rui or uh, maybe some go back and eat your leftover rice or something like that. Eat something other than bread if you can. Um, as more people do this, the demand for bread at that price of $12 will drop significantly, and this should be a signal to the producers that this price is not a good price. You have to reduce your price. So markets work better when these things work like that. Uh, so and I think the trade ministry also needs to admit to the public that this situation is a difficult situation. There's so much that the government can do. There's so much that the trade ministry can do. Uh, in the short term, they're going to take these measures, but, we're going to see high prices of these commodities. There's no quick fix to this. We can make long-term plans to manage this situation, but they can only be long-term. We have to restructure our economy as a whole. So economic transformation, is absolutely necessary. We have to try to produce locally. Some of these things, we don't have to produce everything that we need, but we have to produce something that can supplement significantly supplement. You know, many of these things that we import, particularly the basic things, consumption that we consume in the country, basic food stuff. And there is capability in the Gambia, doctor. I believe we can be able to do these things. The Gambia has enough arable land to produce cereal that can manufacture flour. We can produce enough rice. We can produce a lot of these things. Vegetable oil. That we import so much of. Um, even potatoes. So we just have to focus on some of those things a little bit, and in the long run, we might be able to turn around this economy. I know it's not going to be easy. Nobody should be naive to think that this is going to be overnight. It's going to be easy. It's not going to be, but we can take steps, and that is what is important. As we take these steps, we will see changes begin to happen, and the changes can be incremental, but they can also be astronomical. So we will see these changes over time. But that's what I think the ministry's position should be on this, Dr. Conte.
Well, again, I just want to share something with you because when I saw the posting, that they want to limit the sale of bread at $10, is
Mhm,
I just wonder how do they know the cost of direct materials? I'm looking at one unit.
mhm,
I'm looking at the measurement of bread, one loaf of bread. Let's say that you believe that is $2, and the labor that you're gonna put in is $3. You also quantify your overhead cost, and you say that the total cost is $6 for loaf of bread. And then you, as a merchant, you also would like to have a markup, and you're gonna charge 50%. So you're looking at $9 per loaf of bread.
mhm.
But I bet if you talk to most of the bakers in the country, they will tell you that the direct material cost flour, because the yeast you can use that as overhead. They will tell you that for one loaf of bread, it's likely that the direct material cost is more than $2. And I bet if you again talk to the same bakery, they will tell you that the cost of labor, direct labor, is more than $3. And they will also tell you that the cost of overhead is more than $1. So I don't understand why the government will sanction merchants to sell bread at $10 when they are not actually involved in making the bread.
Right,
Because if we believe in laissez-faire attitude, you charge what you when it comes to bread. Don't we should have alternatives?
right.
When I was growing up, I never ate bread every single day.
No,
So we don't have any alternatives to use, but we only want to buy bread to eat. And by the way, someone told me that in the Gambia, and yes, I can say it. He said that a lot of people have pile problems. They say a lot of people have piles, meaning that when they go use the bathroom, boy, it takes a long time and it's very painful, and that can even lead to cancer and death. So very few people eat fruits and vegetables all when they eat. So we get dehydrated a lot too. So this is one area where I think the government made a mistake in trying to tell merchants that this is how much you should charge, because you are not going to be in a business to sell at a loss per unit of item. You want to make a profit.
Right.
So I have a friend who is in the bakery business. He told me that he wants out. He's coming out. He said that he's going to close because there is no money there. Again, what I don't understand, why do we have to eat bread? But if we do, can we turn to other African countries? I still believe that the Nigerian yam, the Ghanaian yam that you see in a store here as flour to make fufu out of it, I still believe that you can convert that to bread. I still believe cassava, you can convert it to bread. But the question here is during the rainy season, can you tell me people who grow uh, wheat in the country? We will continue to see escalation in the price of flour, potato flour, wheat, because of the war in Ukraine. And this war has no ending. But we are not sitting down to strategize to see, well, when the summer comes in, what should we plan? And even Findo, very few people are growing those things.
Right.
So these are things, that we need to find. But I believe that the government should reverse course on sanctioning bread makers to charge only $10 per loaf of bread, because bread is an item that the shelf life is very short. So, and someone told me that even when you're making bread and you are not ready, and the people who transport the bread to shops, you are not available, they abandon you, they go somewhere else. So by the time you finish making your bread and then you are late to make it, you're going to have bread that's not going to be purchased by the retailers. So these are things that we need to sit down and talk about. But the government sanctioning bread makers to charge only $10 is, I think, it is ill advised. What the Ministry of Agriculture should do is to encourage us to go back to the farms, and also change the Ministry of Health should be able to engage Gambians that we cannot be eating statue food continuously 3 times a day. So again, this is another dilemma. But I guess if you live in the urban area, you need bread. But if you live in the rural areas, you may not even afford to buy bread anyway because it's expensive.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Conte. I totally agree. I think the government's decision to impose a $10 price ceiling on bread makers, bread manufacturers, is kind of uh, ill advised. Um, I don't think the government, in any ways, would be in any position to be able to determine what is the appropriate price for any commodity in the country. It should be entirely left to the market forces. And I do not really think, in as much as I hate the $12 a price per loaf of bread, I do not think it is. If you look at the cost involved, it is pretty fluid. There's no way you can peg the cost of any single item. What I haven't even seen is the cost of transportation. Um, so if you factor in everything, not all bread makers or bread manufacturers are going to experience the same cost issues. The cost problem will vary among them as well. Some will have higher costs of product of manufacturing than others. And so to impose a $10 price ceiling across the board is not really something helpful in my view. Um, We should look at other ways to influence the price of these commodities other than government imposition of price ceilings. But that's what I want to say about this, Dr. Conte. We will really make today quite a short session.
Mhm.
There's one more thing. I don't know if you have something else you want to talk about. There's one more thing I want to talk about the white paper and the response to it. Basically, from the Supreme Islamic Council, I think they made a response to the white paper, particularly the section that talk about religious freedom in the country. Um, I'm not going to go in detail into it, but I do believe that Dr. Conte, all Gambians need to stand up against the idea that we should not nurture and advance the cause of religious freedom in the country. Gambia has enjoyed religious freedom and religious tolerance uh, since, and we cannot go back on that. Um, I think TRRC is pretty right in recommending that uh, the Gambia continue to nurture religious freedom, religious tolerance, and never go back to an attempt to convert the country into a religious state. There should be total separation of power, state and government. Um, um, we cannot allow that. Now, the Supreme Islamic Council has a right to disagree with any religious sect, and I understand lately they've been attacking the Ahmadiyas. They are perfectly, it is perfectly within their rights to claim that the Ahmadis are kafirs, they are not Muslims, even though that claim can be challenged, and that claim could actually be false, because nobody knows for sure who is wrong and who is right. These things are not tested; they are beliefs. None of these beliefs have been tested. Uh, uh, so it's a matter of belief. So just because you believe in something does not give you the absolute authoritative truth to determine that if somebody else's belief is wrong. Uh, so, um, so, but they can make that claim. It is their right to make that claim. Um, but that does not. They have to understand that that does not make that claim the truth or right. Somebody else can make a similar claim against what they believe as the Supreme Islamic Council. But the bottom line is, Gambia should be um, a safe place for anybody who believes in absolutely anything or does not believe in anything at all. We should not judge each other or be hostile to each other because of what we believe or what we do not believe. Um, Belief is personal, is private. I see it like that. Um, and what you practice, what kind of God you believe in, uh, or what kind of God you don't believe in, is totally an individual right. And each person should be able to make Gambia his or her home in a safe manner. Everybody should be protected by law to be able to enjoy life in the country, no matter what they believe in or they don't believe in. I think that much I wanted to say uh, on that issue, Dr. Kente. I don't know if you have any comment on that or comment on anything else.
Well, for me, when it comes to the Supreme Islamic Council, my question is when Jammeh was there, how come they never spoke? And it's only now they are speaking. As a graduate of a Catholic high school, and I had the ability of reading the Bible. In fact, I have a certificate, GCE, and thank God I was able to do that living in a mostly Christian country. But if we want to compare the Ahmadiyas, even here in the US, Christians have several denominations. The Ahmadiyas have really done well. Let me just go back. When that high school was first built, the late Atab, Sheikh Atab Bojang spent over a month at Nusrat High School looking at their curriculum, going from class to class. And when he came back, he gave a report to the Ministry of Education that what he saw at Hamadia High School, as far as the Quranic language study is concerned, is more superior than the ones that we have in our primary schools, our junior secondary schools, and our high schools. And this guy studied, the late Sheikh Hatab Bojan studied in Saudi Arabia. Let's also go back to the average graduate of Nusrat High School, those who went to high school in the late 1970s, 80s. Those people can read the Quran, they can write in the Quran, they can write in Arabic. Look at what the Ahmadiyas have done in terms of our health and our education. I just wish they will even open a university. Then we will know the impact of what the Ahmadiyas have done. When it comes to sciences, you cannot beat science and math, biology, you cannot beat any Ahmadiyya. When the results come out, it's always they are mostly at the top. So I just don't understand. And if we want to claim to be a secret society, why can't we get these Saudis people to pump money into our economy so that we can grow as a nation if we say we are an Islamic country? Look at Gambians or Muslims who work in Saudi Arabia. They will tell you so many horrible stories. Look at what they've done to some of our Muslim girls who they will take that they have some jobs for them there only to be raped. So let's talk straight. This is very scary. I live in a country where religious freedom is of the sense, and I went to a Catholic school during the time that they used to call us Gurumeto Allah, Catholic Karanding Allah. They had names for all of us, but did not convert any one of us. And then if we take the remittances, and then no, I think the Supreme Islamic Council, we need to educate them to say that the bulk of the remittances coming into the country are from Christian countries. And these are Gambian Muslims who live there and they are sending money to the country. I think we need to have engagement with them on that. We have lived with Christians, and the Christians haven't done anything. And let me just kind of explain something. Sometimes when you talk about this religious thing, sometimes it really upsets me because I do talk to Christians. I know that Christians may be 5% of the population, but when it comes to corruption, tell me who is more corrupt. Let's come down to alcohol consumption in the country. Muslims have nightclubs, Muslims have bars where people go drink. And who are the people who go there frequent there to drink? Muslims. So these are things that the Supreme Islamic Council should be talking. Alcohol is not attributed to Christians. A good Christian doesn't drink, but we think that if you are a Christian, you can drink. So I mean, I don't want to see. Sometimes when you talk against them, they call you itamang kafirol. You are kafir. And these are people, even in Saudi Arabia, they've driven these people out of Saudi Arabia. And then if we say we are Muslims, oh, Bunjeng is not here. I wish he is alive today. When he talked about people going out to the marabouts to destroy each other, let's talk about that. You pray to Allah, but you can go somewhere and cast evil spirit on somebody. You can go out there. Ita no more tamaka ala sama ala singo ye fengo ala kenyo ye fenjo ta ita morolia purka mari doku. People are doing their no cortel and so forth. But I don't want to go in detail to attack them. But this is very scary. And then you talk about being Muslim, but then when you go home as a Gambian, your mother will tell you, "Kana mola kinidomo, kana mola jimi." So, and then when you are even in the village, if you have a child who is very smart, Very soon that child will die because somebody will poison that kid. And then you notice that back in the day, when you live in the urban area, you will see your kids, your family during the rainy season. But that's not happening anymore in the Gambia because people are scared to send their kids, their families, because something may happen to them. So these are, and then the level of corruption going on. Who are doing it? Who are doing it? So I mean, I don't want to attack the Supreme Islamic Council, but if we want to claim Gambia to be a Muslim nation, we should go to the Saudis to send us money because we are going to Christians to ask for money. When it comes to grants, tell me, you think the Saudis, the Saudi fund, they loan us money, the creative fund, they loan us money. And then they say, haram along near Kodoke Bank. But yet still, these people are charging us administrative fees. The rate is even higher than the interest rate. So, but when you talk, so I think sometimes we have to engage these people. We have to engage them because if you tell me, Jamala Fata, I think it na kweko, Hamadia Fenjo Manka Dinot. But look at what these people have done for us. Look at their graduates. Their graduates, what they have done to what they have contributed in our country. But again, one has to be very careful because they said that the same thing about SFR, and if you speak straight, they say that it's a kafir royalty,
Right.
but yes, still these are the same people.
Right. Right.
Gambian society now is very scary. You cannot even to go send somebody to go. One guy told me that he was actually eating a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So he decided to go pray.
Yeah.
So when he came back, he tried to bite the bread,
Oh.
to get some, and his tooth, smashed a glass. So while he went to pray to Allah, somebody went ahead and put something there to kill him.
Yeah.
So me along so this is sometimes I just, and then when you go to the Supreme Islamic Council, have you been there? Look at the building.
Nah, I haven't
No,
been.
you see the nice pictures that they make, but go and look at the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's all in shambles.
Wow.
The place is not even painted. There are very good people in this Gambia Supreme Islamic. So how come women are not part of the Supreme Islamic Council executive?
Well, women. That's a completely different topic. I think
Well, I mean, but remember, I went to a Catholic school and
Yeah.
I read the Bible. It still has not changed my belief in Islam. But
Right.
look at what we are. I'm here
Right.
in a
But
Christian country, but
yeah.
they think that if alcohol is only for Christians, a good Christian should not drink,
Right.
and therefore no Muslims should drink. But if you go to Gambia, if you go to the bars now, what time is it now? I bet you have a lot of people now going down there to drink.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Even when I had I wanted to go visit some of our teachers at St. Augustine's who frequent a bar on MDI Road, and someone told me a teacher of mine was there. I wanted to go. Someone cautioned me not to go. I said, why? He said, and I only wanted to say hi to the guy.
Yeah. 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 I know.
So Islam, I think sometimes instead of criticizing the Supreme Islamic Council,
Yeah.
it's always nice to open a dialogue with them.
Right. I totally agree, Doctor. And you are right. Gambia is a very conservative society.
Yeah.
That is very true. But a couple of things I wanted to say on this. One is that my big concern is that the Supreme Islamic Council and many of the people associated to that association or council, I think the biggest problem is the understanding and the respect for human rights. I think they do fail to understand that people can be different than you, but that does not take away their humanity, and that does not mean that they are wrong. You know, you have to, the right you have and the respect you have in the country from other people, you should be able to accord other people the same kind of respect and the same kind of right, even though they don't share the same beliefs with you. You know, these things are just beliefs. We are not going to go into even try to attempt to prove any of these things right, because obviously we cannot. It's just a belief. So, for a country to work properly, we need to accept and embrace our differences. Our differences make us richer, it makes us prosperous,
Mhm.
it gives us better understanding of ourselves and others. The Supreme Islamic Council needs to know that. And the fact that, I did not listen to their thing. I just read it on the from the postings by other people, and on the local platforms in the country. They were saying that some of their members were even threatening, you know, uh, 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 conflict. I mean, conflict, fighting. They rather
Wow.
than accept some of the recommendations that the TRRC is coming up with. So, potentially those are criminal. You cannot disturb the peace of the country simply because we want to make our country an inclusive country for everybody. So threats of violence are potentially criminal, and law enforcement need to pay attention to those and warn some of these people that the Gambia is a peaceful country. We have to continue to encourage the country to remain peaceful and be a safe place for everybody, no matter their personal beliefs, no matter you know their practices. The country does not belong to any single group of people.
Mm.
It is it is an open country for all of us, no matter what we believe. We need to be able to respect each other despite our differences. So, I think that much we can say, Doctor.
Mhm.
And unless you have something else to say, we're gonna end this session today. We'll come back another time next Sunday, and we would, at some point, Doctor, want to look at the because you brought up something about women's role, and I wanted to say that you know the Supreme Islam. Remember when some women were appointed as judges in the Qadi courts, and the
Mhm.
objection we got from some of the Islamists in the country.
Mhm.
Uh,
Wahhabis, the Wahhabis, right?
Yeah, and many are saying that a woman cannot be a judge because, and and I listened to many of the radio stations in the country, and I listened to um to commentators and older people, and I am very surprised. Some of the level of acceptance of that premises that a woman cannot be a judge, and everybody gave flimsy reasons. As if Gambia is not a democratic. Who said a woman cannot be a judge? I mean, and the reasons that were given, you should listen to them. How flimsy and strange, strange is the word. Those reasons are. You just have to look around the world. Those kind of beliefs and thinking is totally debunked. Not today, a long time ago. But I mean, some are even saying that, look at some of the respected Islamic scholars, are talking about. It's just crazy. Maybe one day we will talk about this as well and try to share information. Hopefully, we can influence each other's thinking about some of these things. Um, so hopefully, we will do that at some point. We will still. I'm still trying to come up with our discussion on the budget, so we will do that as well and see how we can make an argument about how uh, to um, to balance the Gambia's huge budget deficit problem. Dr. Conte, this is it for today. I thank you very much for being here again.
Mhm.
And we want to thank our audience again for being here. We'll meet again next Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.